All right, I think we are on the air. So hello, everybody, Survivor Maryland community. I'm back again and excited to be back to join all of you to talk about this episode, which was, I think, another wild one. I know last week everybody was like, oh, this is like the most exciting episode ever. I knew this one was in the wings, and I think it's a lot of fun to talk about. So we're going to break it all down. We have a great panel tonight to talk with you. You probably, if you are a fan of Survivor Maryland, already know them from the preseason roundtable. We have 3 of our 4 from the preseason. Adam Klein, if you probably don't know who he is, but he couldn't make it tonight. But we have the other 3 stars from the group, and I'm really excited to talk to them. So just introduce them one more time. We've got Hillary from Survivor Canada, which it's not called Survivor Canada anymore. It's like British Columbia Project.
I think he got like some CBS notice or something, so he had to change the name.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my CBS notice.
Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't come, but whatever for now. Hillary from star player from Survivor Kanata, which was maybe the 3rd season or something, 2nd or 3rd from.
Yeah, I don't remember either. So yeah.
And she crushed it. A lot of fun to talk to last time. Hillary, how are you doing tonight?
Good. I raced home to get here on time because I'm on the West Coast, so I got here at 6. It's 6:30 or 6:45 right now for me. So that's like right after work.
Yeah, and it's not Memorial Day for you, so.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I was really confused. Literally 2/3 of our panel they're like, what is not working today? So
I just ignored it. I was like, yeah, Memorial Day. Same thing, whatever. It's probably like Canada Day or something.
Yeah. Well, nice. Thanks you for rushing back, and it's nice to have you on the chat tonight. Then we've got Dom from the Dom and Colin podcast. It's a spoiler that Colin will be the next one that we talk to. But Dom, I know you had a crazy day of running around somewhere. So how are you doing?
It was a crazy day, but I wasn't working. We also have a holiday, not really celebrating anything in particular, just we don't feel like working, so we take the day off. But it's great to be here after a great episode, although I'm not quite sure what I meant to say about it, so I'm going to look like an idiot. But very excited to be here, and happy birthday, Austin. You say it's not your birthday, none of us believe you, so regardless of whether that's true or not, we wish you a very happy birthday and many happy returns.
I think this was a Will from America prank stunt. I don't really know where it came from, but here we are. I've been getting a lot of birthday wishes today, which was not on my horizon. But thank you, Dom. Really, really appreciate it. I think the chat has a lot of ideas for what you're supposed to say on this episode. So if you need some guidance, then just feel free to rely on them. Then we got Colin Stone. Colin, also from the Dom and Colin podcast, aforementioned. Colin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I feel almost embarrassed, I guess. I didn't do very much at all today. I played a little disc golf. I did some shopping and watched some Survivor Maryland.
Disc golf?
Yeah. Well, not actual disc golf, but my friends and I will go places and make up our own kind of courses.
Oh, that sounds enjoyable.
Yeah, it's like Frisbee. You're familiar with the idea of disc golf, at least, right?
Yes, I played disc golf, but yeah.
Okay.
You usually see them like set up in random places, and you're like, "Who would actually ever play this?"
We were at a middle school playground, so it was because the kids didn't have school today.
And this sounds like a makeshift Survivor Maryland challenge in the works.
Yeah, actually, little known fact is that in the final 4 challenge of season 1, Shubo and the guy who ended up winning the challenge, they were on doing the pole challenge, and they both dropped off at the same time. And they agreed to go to a tiebreaker of bocce ball. So bocce ball was the season 1 tiebreaker for the final 4 challenge. Colin, are you doing okay after the Celtics last night?
I'm doing okay. I mean, when you're up against LeBron James, you have some sort of idea that at least it's possible you might lose. So I was happy to make it just that far and get more games out of the season than I was expecting to after the 2 best players were out.
That's really the only way to accept it. But Chris LeCompte, James?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We can do better than that. I feel like over the course of this podcast, we can improve on that benchmark.
Senti genius puns were already happening tonight. So
yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into the episode. Before I start, I always do this. I say that, and then I need to say a couple things. But first of all, thanks everybody for your tweets and your comments, likes, and everything. The last week was really huge. for getting the views up and the word out. And now that it's the Survivor off season, definitely highly thankful and supportive of anybody who wants to keep spreading the word and keep recruiting people. I know I've had a lot of new viewers jumping in on the show and joining the bandwagon since then. Look, people get mad if we compare it to the real CBS show. So, don't wait in any of those territories.
I'm doing it. I don't care. I'm still going to do it. I don't care what you say.
I saw you preface your tweet today, so I thought you were a changed person.
Well, you have to clarify it for certain people whose like sole objective is taking you at your worst possible interpretation.
People do like to do that. But anyway, we're here. We're talking about the episode, and we have a lot to break down, I think, tonight. I know from the pre-chat that we just had that nobody is actually really sure of what happened. So we'll try to break that down, and I'll try to give some insight too without, ruining any of the storyline that'll build next week. So I guess the only place to start off with is really what are your immediate reactions to that episode, and what'd you make of it? So we'll start with Colin.
Well, my first question is, I assume every tribal council going forward will now be held Saturday at 2 a.m. Is that correct, going for the rest of the season?
No, but it definitely, if that had worked out scheduling wise, then it would have been under consideration. It certainly could not play out a lot better.
My initial thoughts on the episode were we had talked about potentially coming on last week, and we didn't know what was going to happen, but we certainly were hoping and thinking that Felucca would be back, and we schedule-wise couldn't make that work, and I was upset about that. But I'm very glad now actually to be here to talk about this wild episode, and we still can talk about Felucca even if we want to later. So really best of both worlds.
Well, that's what I knew, because last week was a really fun episode for just the excitement and the drama and the tension, but I think this one, in terms of a strategic episode, I guess both episodes had some pretty interesting strategic play. But now we have both tribes to discuss. We've seen stuff from both of them, and last week people were saying that that Uruk-hai tribe was so great, and that the Furioso tribe was so boring and predictable and not interesting at all. And I was just like, oh man, just wait a week. I think it'll get interesting.
But Austin, this goes back to the people who complain about comparing Survivor Maryland to CBS Survivor. You're only allowed to like one thing at any given time. You can't. There's no love to go around. You have to pick one thing, and everything else just has to fall by the wayside.
Yeah, absolutely true. So Dom, on that note, what was your takeaway from the episode starting off?
I wasn't quite sure what to make of it. It was just I had yakety sacks just going over and over again in my head as the votes were being read. It's I could tell there was something I was missing. There was some ingredient that would piece everything together that I wasn't seeing yet. And I didn't know if that was by design or if that's genuinely how crazy the vote was, or if I was just going to have to wait until next week. But it was an incredible episode. And like you said, coming out of last week with the big Felucca bombshell, I think a lot of people were hoping to just see that tribe go again so we get as much Felucca as we could all the time. But I think it's a testament to how strong the cast is that Felucca was mostly an afterthought in this episode after the first 5 or 10 minutes, and that was fine. And instead, we had so many great and iconic players just coming together in this crucible to create another amazing tribal council, which we still don't fully understand. And even after you explain it and even after we discuss it, I still don't think we're going to understand it fully.
Yeah, I think the thing to take away from this, to me, the story of this episode was this very slowly developing plan of all these pieces coming together to finally, take out Chris LeCompte. And it was, to me, of anything I've seen, both on the real Survivor, the other versions, whatever, to me, it was one of the most flawlessly executed plans I've ever seen. I just thought they had to adapt a lot, and it was kind of chaotic, but the way they were able to lie to others, to keep it secret, to stay together was really good, up until this last second where a vote just went rogue out of nowhere.
Right. So just to clarify, the intent was Sierra, Chris Thomas, Sabrina, and Senti all just have their votes on LeCompte with the goal of having anyone else put a vote anywhere other than Sierra. And I think this is the first question I had for you before we came on live. And I'm sure viewers out there are also potentially wondering the same thing. Just in quick terms, what happened to make that not be the case? How did Senti end up voting for Eric? To clarify, she knew what was supposed to happen, right?
Yeah, she knew what was supposed to happen. This was not a mistake vote. I don't think anybody cast their vote in a way that wasn't intentional. But I think that we can speculate a lot as to what Senti's motivations were. Was it intentional in a strategic sense? Was it emotional cards being played? I think that from what we've seen with Senti before, there's a lot on the table from that. I've seen the chat say, because she's Senti, classic Senti, Outback teas, seen some, you never really know what's going to happen until the votes are cast with Senti. And I will say there was no like in-person conversation that was missed or anything that I hit or anything. Like I was just as shocked reading the votes because I thought it was going to be LeCompte. I was just as shocked as anyone that was playing or viewing.
Wow.
So
in her mind though, was her vote going on Eric going to then mean everyone else knew to put their votes on Eric, or what was her, not just why she did it, but like, what was the game plan? It seems like for at least me, and I think most of the audience still to this point, would like, what we would need clarification on is like any even close to rational reason to do that when you think it's going to be such a close vote for LeCompte anyway.
Right. I mean, I think there's a question of, I see Curtis Morrison in the chat saying, if Senti knows what's going on, there's no reason to vote for Eric. Just vote for Sierra if you're going to take her out in tiebreaker anyways. That's a fair point. Again, I think this vote was made at a very last second decision. I don't know if I can assign any strategy to it. And I we'll see it next week what the actual rationale was, but I think the confusion is justified in that it doesn't seem to make any sense.
So, and also along those same lines on the tiebreaker, I would have thought after seeing they happened to be split among LeCompte and King, but 5 votes went on those 2 guys. And now that only one of them's eligible, how did the tiebreaker end up going the other way?
Well, I think that, it's one of the votes for Eric was Holly, who was never going to vote for LeCompte.
Okay, so and we saw Holly's vote switch, but okay, that does make sense.
And also, we could tell that you yourself didn't really have a full knowledge of what was going down because you had this like Cheshire Cat style grin as you were reading the tiebreaker votes. Like you knew, regardless of what was happening, this is going to make for great TV or great YouTube or whatever that ends up being. But do you think this is a case where, like we saw Chris Thomas say, basically, if I'm going to take this risk, I may as well swing for the fences and go after Chris LeCompte. And having this half measure of going for Eric, like what does that really accomplish? But on the other hand, Eric seems like it would be easy to rally the votes against him and maybe get a solid 4 or 5 votes on him. And you wouldn't have like Holly being very reluctant to vote for Chris LeCompte, or you wouldn't have someone else just getting misted by Chris LeCompte into voting with him instead. So do you think that would have been a more effective way that things went down, or should they have tried to take the shot at probably the biggest player in the game at this point?
I think that's a question for you guys. I think that's a question that I had for you guys is what do you think is the right? I mean, we clearly saw this episode. People were on board to get out Eric, break up the power duo, and I guess both Micah and Chris Thomas separately, I think, brought up the points of like, let's go after the big dog, the Chris LeCompte. Is that the right strategy, or should they have gone with the easier move? Hillary, I don't know if you want to chime in.
I don't like interjecting, so it's like my turn.
Please, let's get your take. So.
Yeah, so like I don't know. I was pretty disappointed. I was so ready for LeCompte to get out. Like I'm so disappointed with like how it turned out. Like I think LeCompte's a great player and everything, but like it would have been so cool to get him out so early. And I think this season, I think Chris Thomas and Sabrina are like doing so well, and like I didn't really like them their previous seasons, but this season I'm like, I love them. I think that I love how they're actually going for like big players and everything. And so right now I was pretty choked that LeCompte didn't leave. And like I guess in terms of like being a viewer, I'm kind of glad Sierra went because like she was kind of boring, no offense, but yeah, I did wish that LeCompte was gone, and I think Micah's really smart for actually like kind of forcing Sierra to kind of get him out just because they're partners, and he really has no ties with her despite the fact that they're partners. But I think Micah's also playing a good game, even though he wasn't in this episode that much. But yeah,
any alleged boringness on Sierra's part is 100% the fault of the editor.
Yeah, way to go, Austin. She's probably a great character.
Responsibility. Sierra is a very nice
Well, for me, I thought Dom brought up an interesting concept of the idea of like a half measure potentially being the wrong idea. Like I would have thought exactly what you don't want is to make it clear you're coming for Chris LeCompte while also leaving him in the game. So I think if you have the votes to take the shot at Eric, I don't know why you wouldn't just take it at LeCompte instead.
Yeah, and the fact that like he wasn't nervous about being voted out, that kind of irked me a little because I hate
Yeah.
it when they don't think they're on the chopping block.
Well, I guess the reason maybe, like, again, what Dom brought up is it may be far easier to get the votes on Eric than LeCompte. But if you have the votes, I think LeCompte has to be the target.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Hillary, in your experience, is this a common thing that happens with these like fan-made survivors, or where you have like this different mode of communication? Do you still have that last-minute scrambling when no one's quite sure what's going on, or is that just something that you seem to get in like these all-star seasons where everyone kind of knows everyone and is guaranteed to be chaotic?
I don't know, like for like when I played, mine's such an accelerated version that you kind of have to like stick with who your gut goes with right away. It's like 4 days, whereas this is like 3, whatever. So it's, I don't know, build relationships and do whatever. But with my season, you just kind of like, okay, let's go with this person. Okay, great, good answer, and you just kind of shoot with that.
Yeah, I think you have this kind of wrapping around to arrive at the same thing, where if you're playing the game over the course of 3 or 4 days, first impressions are all that really count, because 3 or 4 days is your first impression, basically.
Yeah, basically.
But if you're playing over the course of 3 months, then it's kind of like, I think what Stephen used to say about playing in Cambodia, where it's like there are so many plans going around and everybody knows everyone that it's almost like strategy falls away, and it's just who you have this good gut feeling about and good connection with. And I think one reason why like Chris Thomas is just cheating death every single week, and it's still tough to figure out why, is because people just like him despite his being an asshole sometimes. He's just fun and charismatic, and people enjoy being around him, and that's something that you can cling on to.
Yeah, and that's probably why Senti. Oh, I don't know, because I guess because her and LeCompte have a personal relationship, I think that's probably why she kept him. But that kind of sucks. Like from a viewer's perspective, I would have been so happy to see him go.
Yeah, we need one of those, like they do for every Big Brother season, like updated alliances and deals charts at the end of each episode of like who's with whom now.
I think it would be a lot. I mean, definitely something that plays into every vote, but it's definitely this one is personal relationships, and you know, Senti and LeCompte have been knowing each other going back since Outback, are in a lot of organizations in the same major, basically on campus. And there's, you know, the one thing I think Chris LeCompte has demonstrated a prowess at over the years is like emotional manipulation. Is one of his. It's especially useful and good when he's in Outback, when he was on the bottom and had to, you know, be really sharp all the time. I think he kind of got complacent so far here, but I think you guys make some really good points where, you know, Hillary's. I have experience playing a short game too, and I mean, it really is. You have to just have this alliance and feel really good about it. Mm-hmm. But in this one, I mean, the crazy thing about Survivor Maryland that I've experienced is that, you know, whether there's a day before the vote or 7 days before the vote, and it always depends based on the scheduling, like it still always comes down to the last like 3 hours before tribal every single time. There's never a set thing that is just established on day one and just stays. It always comes down to this last scrambling. And especially this episode, I don't really know why, but there were so many, as I said at the end, there were so many phone calls and texting exchanges, and it's definitely a lot of phone calls, which is not that typical, but for some reason people just couldn't sync up.
What was that about, by the way? It seemed like you were almost mad at them for using phone and text. It seemed like, guys, you're not going to get any plans through if that's how you're doing it.
Well, I tried to discourage it because it's, you know, it's different than meeting face to face. I don't love that element of it. Luckily, I was able to capture some of the phone calls over the last couple episodes, but like, you know, I think it just showed to everybody too. Like you can't. You can still get played in person. I mean, look at the conversation between Chris Thomas and Holly, but like there's something different. It's very easy to get played over the phone comparatively. And to me, that was getting a little bit too far down that road. And then it blew up in people's face when that happened. I mean, a lot of the last minute scrambling was people calling Holly and then everybody saying different things about what they were voting and whatever. And then alcohol mixed in. And that's just like a lot of variables that are both fun and also just like terribly chaotic.
Yeah. It blew my mind that anyone was even willing to talk on the phone after they knew that someone just sitting there and having it on speaker was an option.
Right. I mean, sometimes reality happens. You're away for the weekend, or you're, you know, 3 miles away at 3 a.m. and you want to talk strategy. But it certainly is a thing. I'll real quick jump in because people are saying, I've been getting a lot of questions about explain the 2 a.m. tribal decision. I think what happened was we just couldn't ever find a time to schedule. Usually they're on like a weekday at like 10 p.m. or something. But we couldn't find a time to schedule, and everyone was like, "Oh, I got this, this, and this," and I was like, "Well, then we're just gonna have to do it at freaking 2 a.m. on a Saturday." And everyone was like, "All right, like we'll go out first." That's totally fine. So
that puts Chris Thomas on a level playing field with everyone else.
Right,
He's going to be drunk there anyway. At least have everyone else drunk. Yeah. That's a sick tactic to just delay and push until everyone's going to be drunk.
Yeah, Austin, from your side of things, seeing how well this worked out, were you considering plying the contestants with alcohol for every future tribal, or how did that factor into things?
No, they can do their own stuff and come with their own level of preparation. There's some danger of allowing that too much and making it into a thing, because there's definitely a fine line between Sabrina's state tonight, which was good and enjoyable, and like 2 drinks later. Right.
Yeah. Pre-gaming is dangerous in Survivor and in life, as it turns out.
The actually behind the scenes really thing of this episode was that Rebecca actually came with Ashley from the bar. She was like standing back there watching Tribal and then started puking, which is why you like don't see Ashley half the time during like the votes and stuff. Is Ashley was like going to the bathroom to help her out. So it was really a mess of a night. All right, moving on from that. Let's talk more about the actual episode strategy, whatever. So we talked a little about the vote itself, and I guess diving in a little bit more to what we were talking about with, was it the right move to go after LeCompte? I think people were saying in the chat that this was Chris Thomas's episode, and I think that a lot of parts came together for it. But I mean, this is the story we've seen from him since the first day. So for him, what do you guys think in terms of how he played and whether he, how he did this episode in terms of trying to get this to happen?
It seems like he did a great job as far as getting people on his side, for at least to begin with, and then it just kind of fell apart with how the vote ended up playing out. But I've been a huge Chris Thomas fan this whole season. I haven't seen his original season, but Austin, I know you will know that I said the other day, the person that doesn't seem like they're in that great of a spot that I really hope can somehow make it to the merge out of this entire cast may honestly be Chris Thomas. I love having that kind of wild card, that like mega wild card, frankly, in there, who overtly says my plan is to be as on people's radar as possible, so they think that that I'm easy to eliminate anytime we want. It brings me back to Will Kirby and Big Brother 2, one of my favorite players of all time, and I love seeing this out of Chris Thomas so far. It seems like it's actually, for whatever reason, somehow working to a certain point at least.
Yeah, I'm like a big fan of Chris Thomas as well this season. Like, I did not like him at all, like prior to this or like in his whatever old season. And like right now, I think he's such a messy player that it's so entertaining to watch. And like, I don't even know how he's doing so well. I think it's maybe just because he's a big target and everyone just wants to keep him like for the time being. But like, it's so weird why they're okay with it. And like, I think the fact that because he's such a not even a wild card, he's just so wild in his actions that everyone's okay with having him. Like, I just think it's so funny. And I think that it just really benefits him because of the way he acts. And everyone already knows that. And because this is an all-star season and everyone kind of wants to know how everyone acts, the fact that he's already like insane, they're just okay with keeping him. And I just like, for me as a viewer, I love watching it. If I had him on my draft pick, I don't know. I don't think he's going to win, but I still like him being in the game.
I totally dropped out of the call, so I don't know if...
Yeah, Austin froze as I was in the middle of my answer, and I thought he was just really bored with what I was saying. Yeah, Dom, where are you on Chris Thomas at this point? Chris Damas. No, sorry.
I'm shaking his head.
Unmute your microphone. This is welcome to the Dom and Colin 4 times per podcast. This is what happens. I think it's your physical mute button on your microphone is muted. All right.
Oh, this is not working. I just want to hear Dom say Felucca again.
Oh, this is a nightmare. At least I don't know what's going on. It normally fixes itself quickly.
Well, while we let Dom try to figure that out, Dom says 1 second in the public chat. So
he types in the public chat.
Dom letting the people know that he'll be back. Dom's back.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Like Chris T, I have died, I've risen, and I have come again. So as someone who does have Chris T on my draft board, I don't think he's going to win. I know he's not going to win, but I love seeing him there and having him there to root for. And I don't know how much of this you can give him credit for. Like, I don't know if he actually, like the hustle you saw this episode with a montage of him scheming with like 4 different people in a row, actually did anything to save him, or if he's just doing his Chris Thomas antics and he would have been fine anyway. But I love seeing him just put the work in and take these swings at these big players and not be ashamed of it whatsoever. And I need to hear from Austin what the backstory on the black eye is, because if there's anyone that I can see ending up with a black eye, it would be Chris Thomas. But I'm curious what the actual facts of that are.
Well, I've been, that was asked a lot last week, but at this point, I feel like it's really been so hyped up that the answer is not going to be satisfying. So I'm just going to go ahead and let the mystery of Chris Thomas's black eye keep going. I know. I also, like, there was some mirroring of some of the shots, and people were like, it switched eyes. So maybe he just, draws black paint on his eyes every episode for a different one.
That was another question I had. There was some weird mirroring with Holly's shirt and picture behind Senti at one point. We're both backwards.
It's tough. Everyone's recording
together, Austin. This is unacceptable, buddy.
I know. The continuity is just a disaster. But regardless of that, all right. So we touched on Chris Thomas. Let's talk about the almost move for Sabrina and Sierra.
Oh God, did we lose?
They go along with it. Right move for them. I mean, wait, what?
Sorry, I thought my thing froze. That was my bad. I thought we lost you.
Okay. Yeah. So Sierra, Sabrina voted for the plan for Chris LeCompte as well. Sabrina, a lot of talk in the episode, and also the secret scenes about Sabrina and that Eric relationship still being a thing. Do you think Sierra made the right decision to go for this, or should she have just stuck with the majority?
Wait, Sabrina or Sierra?
Either one. You can go.
Well, Sierra, it seems like when she's going to leave, if a different plan doesn't happen, I think that's a lot easier to get on board with whatever the alternative is. Sabrina, I think, is the really interesting one. And I thought it was interesting that we saw Shubo kind of like get in her ear too about how to help this vote go out. And before we dive in on Sabrina, just in particular, was that something that was happening a lot, or is that something we can potentially look forward to seeing later? Is partners trying to influence how certain votes go? Because as far as I remember, I know we saw Chris Thomas do that when the girls went to travel, or Chris LeCompte do that when the girls went to tribal council, I think. But was that a common thing? Were people trying to influence the other team's votes?
There's a decent amount of it. I mean, I think that you definitely I've seen some of the ones that do. Sabrina and Shubo talk all the time. Chris LeCompte was definitely involved in the early episodes with strategizing. But, obviously Victoria is not talking to Chris Thomas about the vote or anything. Right. So it depends. But I think the people that are doing that sort of cross-tribe stuff, we definitely see. Micah and Sierra. Micah this episode definitely approached Sierra too, which I think was part of what got the ball rolling a bit.
Yeah. And to return to Sabrina and the initial question, though, it seems like those 4 votes would have been pretty reliable, and they did end up getting 2 people to vote not on Sierra at the initial vote. It just took like a freak circumstance for this plan not to go through. And hearing you describe it earlier, Austin, is like one of the best laid plans you'd seen put out to that point. I do feel like Sabrina probably made a decent decision here going for that big target, especially when in trying to think about how after this doesn't play out in their favor, this is going to work out for that whole side going forward. Like if they were to go back to the next vote, I really don't see how Sabrina is going to be getting voted out, not only next, but realistically, like anytime soon, even after having her tribe potentially kind of implode on itself now at 3 a.m. on a park bench. Although we'll see. If she gets another couple drinks in her, maybe anything could happen.
Hillary, did you have thoughts on Sabrina especially?
Well, for when you said Sabrina and Sierra, yeah, I agree with Colin. Is it Colin?
I'm Colin, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so when he said, like, yes, with Sierra, she really didn't have a choice of whether to go with the Chris LeCompte plan or not, because, like, it was either her or him, I guess, at that point. And with Sabrina, I don't blame her for, like, I guess flipping if that's the case, just because it is such, like, a big move. And it's, like, if you're not sure if you're on the right side of the vote, like, you want to play it safe. So it kind of sucks, but I don't blame her with what she did.
Right. I think it's results oriented almost to question it when they were so close to making this go through. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, Dom, I would guess it's your turn.
Oh, well, thank you, Colin. Is it Colin? I don't really know you.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. I think Sabrina's in a pretty good spot no matter what she does. So why not take the big swing and go after Chris LeCompte, right? And I thought it was impressive, even in a tribal which was so chaotic when all of them were drunk, and when Sabrina apparently was freezing her tits off, as she said, she was able to still show that composure and follow through with the plan. And we don't know what's going to happen next week, but I think she's going to avoid that target being on her and hopefully glide by safely for a few more weeks. And I think it really helps that she's buddied up with Shubo, who maybe Felucca is gonna like go after him, and that's gonna blow back onto her. But being aligned with the other biggest shitstar in the game is a great spot to be in. You'd rather have him inside the tent pissing out than vice versa.
Yeah. So what do you guys think is the talking about? We don't know what's going to shake out next week. Well, what do you think is going to shake out next week? We've got we have the after.
All right, did Austin freeze for real?
Yeah, Austin.
Okay, because I was like,
yeah, I'm waiting.
You guys moving around in the video, and Austin's not doing anything.
Yeah.
I guess he's setting up what's going to be shaking out next week. It seems by his smirk like something exciting is going to shake out next week. I
think Danny has finally taken over, and the Celtics game is taking priority here. But who knows?
Any exciting theories about how things may shake out next week? It seems like we're getting set up for an on-the-spot, immediately after Tribal Council kind of blow up from this group that I'm very much looking forward to. And I really feel like after, get a few more drinks in these people, they're very close to just reshaping this entire tribe potentially. But I don't know, Dom, I guess how likely do you think it is that Chris LeCompte and Eric King here stay on the hot seat if this tribe goes back next week?
It feels like the votes to get them out were already pretty shaky as it is, and with one of those votes gone and the rest of them turning on each other, it feels like they should be in a pretty good spot to just keep their block and keep their numbers. Because when you have this plan and you need all of these different elements to come into place, and one of those falls through, and you can't trust any of the others, it really does feel like you just go with what you know. And if that means keeping Chris LeCompte around for another vote or two, maybe that's just what you default to. And it looks like we might have Austin back, but touch wood on that.
Hi, welcome.
Sorry, I didn't post like Dom in the public chat saying that I was leaving, so I don't know what's going on with my internet. So
I keep in touch with my fans, Austin.
Where did I cut out?
We were just getting into like how if this group does like go back to the next tribal council, that would play out, because it seemed like that's where you were heading with it, and it seems like there may be some excitement to come potentially if that does in fact come in.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about the potentials for both tribes going to tribal, but in this case, if they do, what do you think would be the shakeup of how these actual sides play out now?
Go for it.
Yeah, with this tribe, I feel like this was really the only opportunity to either split up like LeCompte or King, and I think now that they like have a pretty set majority at this point, I feel like they're gonna like blaze through and do pretty well. Whereas the other tribe has Victoria and Felucca. I kind of want Victoria to start playing the game a bit better because she was so well known for like her season, and I think right now she's so oblivious to what's happening on her tribe right now, and I really want her to prove herself, especially with Felucca back on her tribe. And that's like, I feel it's taking a toll on her like mental state, and I feel really bad for her, but I really want her to see her basically like she has a reputation for a reason, and I want her to prove it again.
Yeah, it's very odd that she and Victoria are the two odd people out. As far as we know right now on that other group, it seems like the trio has done a good job basically getting everyone feeling like they're in solid with them, with the exception of those two. And I would have thought, obviously, that, potentially automatically almost gunning for each other, that one of them would have just inadvertently wound up with the majority.
Yeah, Soka Trio's like killing it right now.
I really don't want to lose either of Felucca or Victoria, but it really does feel like that's the way things are going. And one of the big missing pieces when Austin lied to us shamelessly and without any remorse for months about Felucca not being on the season. One of the
years, yeah.
Yeah, like the best liar in Survivor Maryland is Austin for having us all snowed over for so long, and for having the self-control to keep that under wraps as well. Like if I was at the helm of something like this and I knew there were these these amazing twists coming down the pipeline, I would not be able to resist spoiling them to people. They would all be out in the open long before now. But so it's a credit to Austin, sincerely, that he's been able to keep all of that under wraps for so long. But when we thought that Felucca was going to be missing from the season, one of the things I was regretting not being able to see was that Felucca versus Victoria storyline get a new arc to it. And we've got that now, but I feel like that might just kind of fizzle out before it's time, maybe.
Yeah, Austin must have been asked triple-digit times, why isn't Felucca on this season? And every single time he lied to people straight to their face and they ate it up.
But this is a follow from last week, but I don't think they were all lies. She did initially decline. She could not make the beginning of the season. She was like upset from the way it ended the time before. Those are all true statements. Yeah. I then eventually just came up with another plan. So
yeah, well, I'm with Dom in that I really hope both Felucca and Victoria can make it for a while, and I hope, frankly, that the merge is relatively early and that the other tribe loses most of those challenges, so that can be something we could realistically see.
So let's transition into talking about I wanted to bring up your guys' draft teams because as we know, you guys and Adam Klein did a draft in the preseason of who you guys. It was just a pick the winner draft, but I think it's a good framing point to talk about. We're 6 episodes in. We've seen both initial tribes go to tribal, both swap tribes go to tribal. We've seen a lot of almost everybody left. So we're just going to touch base on who you guys have, and then we can talk about, I guess, what kind of has surprised you so far. I know Hillary's talked about that she didn't like Chris Thomas or Sabrina, and that's been a big surprise for her. But we'll just talk in general about, what you guys have thought about so far.
Can I offer a diving in point here for this? Because I think it could tie into something else that would be interesting to get into. Yeah. If I'm remembering correctly, I have both Shubo and Sabrina on my team, and I was very excited about them becoming partners. For Hillary and Dom as well, and Austin, feel free to spoil the entire season by giving an answer to this too. Is there any doubt in either of your minds that Shubo and Sabrina are the front runner pair to win whatever prize they ultimately get? Is there another pair that you feel like is competitive with them?
Who's left over? Like Holly and LeCompte? Is that it?
It's 4 left. We got wait. Is it 4 left?
I don't know.
Okay, we've got Shubo, Sabrina. Yeah. Oh, I think we lost one tonight. So we have Shubo, Sabrina, Chris LeCompte, and Holly. Oh, we have 4 left. Shubo, Sabrina, Chris LeCompte, Holly, Eric and Shannon, Chris Thomas, Victoria. Those are the 4 left. We lost one tonight from that was the 5 left. Yeah, I had it in the polls. So
okay.
Eric and Shannon, I could see them. They might get far.
My dark horse there might actually be Christy and Victoria, even though they are officially not a pair and don't want to be a pair, at least on Victoria's end. That could actually, I would love it if somehow that's the end of this twist, that they're the last pair standing.
I mean, if that does happen, and Austin has done such a good job setting up that Victoria doesn't want to tell her partner because it's Chris Thomas and she doesn't want him to get whatever it is, and now he's going around feeling like every other person under the sun is potentially his partner, for them to like back into it and almost accidentally get that would be amazing. Austin, you want to confirm?
Or any thoughts?
I can't confirm anything about the partner twist. So.
All right. Well, Hillary, what do you think about? Because I mentioned this in terms of Shubo and Sabrina. Would they have been your number 1 if I wasn't blatantly setting it up for you in those terms?
I don't know. Like, I think, yeah, they're pretty good. But I think with Felucca on Shubo's tribe right now, she might like call him out. Like, because she was so close to calling on, like, not this episode, but I think it was the previous episode. And she was so close to like kind of understanding like his brain and everything that she might be the one to like, I don't know, bring him down. Ideally, I think, yeah, I guess, yeah, they would be the best case scenario. Or I think Shannon and Eric as well, just because I think LeCompte still is a bigger target. So people would get rid of him over King.
Yeah.
And I think just Shannon's like really good right now. So she's golden. I don't think she is like going to leave anytime soon.
She might be in the single best spot as things stand right now.
I wanted to talk about this. This is a good into it with the partner twist. All this week that we've seen kind of building in the last couple weeks is that of Sabrina and Chris Thomas being a pairing is getting around pretty rapidly. around the cast as if they're all spreading some sort of anyway. Sabrina and Chris Thomas is kind of spreading through, and tonight we actually saw Sabrina sort of hint to Chris Thomas that was actually the case, that she was his partner. What do you think of that move itself, and how it could pay off, or whether it's a smart decision to lie about that or play that? What do you guys think of it?
I had a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I had a question for Austin, because they're not allowed to lie. She can't say yes. She had to say, like, we'll talk about it in person, or like, this is too big to talk about over the phone, but something's up with this. I can't do whatever it is. She couldn't outright say, like, overtly, you're my partner, because she didn't have the text message receipts basically to back that up. I was wondering how that would have been handled production wise. Like, if she had gone in and said yes, do you have to like make her then tell him no, I'm just lying to you, or how far would you have let that go, Austin?
I think that would be the only thing I could do. Is I made very clear what you were allowed to say and what not, and I also, I mean, I think if someone had asked me about that, I would have said, well, you know, you have the paper validating. So
okay,
so
Austin, as a follow up to that, so I'm not allowed to tell Hillary directly that she's my partner if she's not, but I can tell you Hillary's my partner, and then if you decide to tell Hillary that, that's fair game. Is that
correct?
Right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember. I think that there may have been some weird like intercept calls, or they end with phone calls. You know, because you could tell me whatever you want. You can lie to somebody else about whatever, but you can't lie directly to a guy saying that they're your partner when they're not.
Mm-hmm.
But
and
like,
the validation of that is the paper.
So like the guys knew that you had to have a piece of paper in order to like confirm that it was like the pairing. So like with Chris Thomas asking Sabrina, "Hey, are you my partner?" Like she, like with her, she said, "I don't know," but like if she said yes, isn't that really Chris's fault for like kind of forcing her to give him an answer? Because if she says yes, it's up to him whether or not to believe her, because she doesn't confirm with a piece of paper. Or like, would you still have to chime in saying like, Sabrina lied to you, she's not your partner?
It's a tough question. I mean, yes, I think that you could say it's on Chris Thomas to then validate that. But the reason I made the rule itself beyond just the paper is that, you know, if everybody starts lying to everyone about that, and then you have to get everybody's paper to confirm, I just didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing, I mean, if I was Chris Thomas and she said I got the word and heard potentially even just that from her, like if I ever heard her say, I guess, yes, you are my partner, I wouldn't even feel like I needed to ask for the paper, because I would know it was the rule. She can't say that unless she's my partner.
Right. That's a true aspect also. I mean, if the rule didn't exist, then yeah, you don't totally know. But I mean, I think the reason why then tonight on the phone call he wouldn't say, well, then show me the paper, is because there was this whole question of, well, is she being coy because she doesn't really want to work with me or whatever? I think that's a whole other aspect of it. But from a general sense, the move itself, do you guys like it?
I liked it. I thought it was really smart because it gives her the opportunity to play. Like now everyone thinks that Sabrina and Chris Thomas are partners. So if Chris Thomas leaves, like she's golden because she still has Shubo, and like nobody knows that. Like I just think for her, it definitely benefited her.
I don't know. It feels like Chris Thomas is a wild card in the best and worst possible ways, and being so closely tied to him, like if people are assuming that if we keep Chris Thomas around for a certain length of time, he's automatically going to get immunity, so maybe we have to go after Sabrina. That's the one thing that could mess up what seems to be a pretty great spot for her at the moment.
Well, do you think she's still in a great spot after this week?
I would say so. Yeah, it seems like people seem to be interested in coming to Sabrina at this point, which is a crucial thing in any game of Survivor. And it seems like she's not going to be perceived as any kind of major threat post-merge, especially if the challenges or anything like the one from tonight. So I definitely would say Sabrina would be one of the people at this point that I would try to be like investing the most in if this was a stock watch kind of situation.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, I think everybody on that tribe goes down a few notches after tonight, but the ones who are in a good spot before are still in a good spot, but maybe they have to do some work to get back out of it. So,
I was going to say, just in terms of the challenge, I mean, worst strategy ever for the Furiosa tribe, right? Like I've never seen a more strategic approach. Sit some players out, whether they can drop out whatever they want, and hold it so high that half the people cannot even support the weight.
Yeah, they're just running laps alongside them for no reason.
I was thinking, is someone on that tribe trying to throw the challenge, and this is just a very creative way of doing it? But it turns out they just enjoy losing, I guess.
Yeah, the other thing I think that Sabrina and Holly were okay with it is I think they were both looking for idols, and I didn't actually hide an idol at this challenge, so there wasn't really a spot for it, and I didn't do it. But they were like silently looking through the bushes. And
speaking of that, one thought that I had during last week's episode, and I just saw Curtis Morrison in the chat post something similar, that I would very much enjoy if this did in fact come in. Curtis wrote, "What are the odds the idol did get found last week and that Austin is pulling some kind of The Genius style editing, and we'll just see it once it actually becomes relevant?" Like what I had wished I always said I wish they had done this with Kelly Wentworth's idol in Second Chance, where they didn't show us her finding it. We just got to see it when she pulls it out to blindside Savage. I think would be amazing. And I know Austin is at least aware of The Genius style editing, and I would love to see something like that potentially. We don't know. I'm sure he's not going to tell us, but I subscribe to that theory.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, I mean, I will say I think I really enjoy the limited Genius that I've seen. I enjoy the style of editing, but I do think it's a different style of editing.
Okay.
I'm not buying the bullshit, Austin.
Is it off?
I'm not buying the bullshit. Right? Who said that? So I guess before we get back into the since we broke off from it, before we get back into the fantasy draft stuff and going with that, do you guys have thoughts on last week's episode and the return of Felucca in general, the twist itself, how it manifested with these new tribes? I mean, I know we've seen them play out now, but feel free to react to that because I know you guys were talking about it a lot beforehand.
Yeah, when like Felucca entered and like everyone looked at Victoria for her reaction, I thought it was like a little awkward because I didn't realize that her and Felucca had like the worst like separation, and like Victoria broke down crying or whatever, and it got super emotional and dramatic. And like for me, I'm thinking like, what happened? Because I didn't realize it was that big of a deal. But I guess for her, it was like the most dramatic thing ever for Felucca to come back, which sucks. But like, I was pretty stoked. I'm like, oh yeah, like based on just the previous week's episode, when everyone in the comments were like, Felucca's coming back because of Panta, Victoria, blah, blah, blah. I was pretty stoked that she was coming back just because she was so entertaining. I wasn't a big Felucca stan in her season just because she made me angry a lot, but I liked her for entertainment.
Yeah, as a confirmed Victoria sympathizer, I had my doubts about how well this was going to go, but I saw some people saying that maybe it's unfair to bring Felucca back into the game after so long or whatever. I can see that argument, but I don't care. Felucca is just electric to have on the screen.
Yeah, I agree.
I will take whatever trade-off that involves. I'm so happy to see her back, and even though she had a fairly quiet week, this time around she was more low-key, and that makes sense given how the episode went. I'm excited to see more of her going forward, and hopefully for a long time to come.
Yeah, I had the same reaction as someone who I believed Victoria is on my draft team, and I thought, well, that's probably not the best news that could be received at this point for her game. But like you guys, while I understand the idea of bringing someone in with after several votes have already gone down being a little weird, especially in a season with the pairs twist, I don't care at all. And frankly, I feel like if Austin had the opportunity to bring Felucca in at this point and not done so, I think that would have been absolutely insane. I think this is a total no-brainer. If Felucca this early into the game says, you know what, I have time to do this and I'm interested in doing so, I think, Austin, you made the 1,000,000% clear move.
I mean, I thought so. Most people were pretty positive. I understand the arguments of like, it's not, pure integrity of the game or whatever. And I don't like when reality shows do it all the time, but I just thought, seemed like the last season, it's Felucca.
Yeah,
it was not even just the viewers, but I think just to like up the stakes and up the electricity and the excitement of the game, and I think it worked in that sense. I mean, last week to me kind of blew the season open, and then this week again, I mean, it just pretty much the game was just kind of blown wide open over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, Felucca came out of the gate on such fire in episode 5. She was so amazing, and it was such a fun, nostalgic trip down memory lane. Just seeing her back, giving confessionals, just being incredible in every single way. It was such a treat having her back on the screen for sure.
Let's touch on Shubo from both last week and this week because he was a little bit quiet this week, but I'm sure you guys have some takes on. Certainly has been one of the bigger if bigger names over the first 6 episodes. And last week was a defining moment from him and a little bit of a shift of his game. Where do you guys think we saw a little bit this episode about Felucca and Shannon both having and Holly having some distrust of him? So where do you think Shubo sits right now and in terms of where he's going for the future?
I'm hoping last week may throw a little caution into him going forward, or at least for a little bit, just as far as maybe I was flying a bit too close to the sun, even though it did end up going his way. But it definitely seems like Shubo is in there playing, if not the hardest in the cast, certainly high up on that list and doing an extraordinarily effective job at it to this point. I obviously haven't seen his original season because Austin won't allow anyone to watch it anymore. But I've been a huge fan of Shubo so far, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting that he was an unknown quantity to us as viewers, mostly just like he was to some of the players out there. And I feel like with that reputation coming in, and also he comes across as like trustworthy but a little bit sketchy. He really doubled down on the sketchy side of that last week, and to great effect. And I loved watching it, and he did a great job. But I don't know from my perspective what the payoff really was. Like, you get at Michelle, but is that the big move that you want to risk everything on? And because that came from what we saw, that came very close to just blowing up in his face. And I love that this coincided with Felucca coming back in, because she is the one person who it seemed instantly was onto him and knew that there was something there, even if she didn't quite know what. And that tension, I think, is going to be one of the most exciting parts of the season for me going ahead, of like if and when the two of them are going to go after each other.
Mm-hmm.
Last week I thought sorry, Hillary.
Oh, thank you. With Shubo, I don't know if I like him or not. Like, I think I can acknowledge the fact that he's playing a pretty good game, but I think I like to root for underdogs, and the fact that he's like has such a good grasp of like what his game is, I don't want to root for him, but I know he's doing well, so I can acknowledge it.
Yeah. So now that Survivor Maryland is an international sensation, you're not cheering for it anymore. You're hoping for it to fail.
I don't know. I don't think he's on my
draft.
For the first 4 episodes, I'd almost just been taking it for granted that Shubo was doing a really good job and people were liking him. But I thought episode 5, I had some questions coming out of episode 5 that I'm curious to see like how this all plays out, because I think the move to go for Michelle in a potentially almost unnecessary situation, certainly some of the lying was a bit over the top. And that just, he got, I think, frankly, really lucky to have that break his way. I'm wondering if those confessionals that he was giving about how stupid Michelle was for falling for this, if we're meant to come away from that feeling like to bring up Will Kirby again, like he got one completely over on the house and he's totally above all this, or if that it's potentially meant to come across a little more negatively towards Shubo about not mean-spirited, but feeling like he's above it all, and potentially that could be his Achilles heel later on. Like he could get away with whatever he wants, and it turns out down the line that he can't. So I'm not sure which way, like, I really don't know which way I'm meant to fall on that at this point, because I could see it being a winner edit, frankly, or I could see it being a comeuppance edit. I think it could go sharply either direction going forward.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Okay. Well, let's go to the draft now, so we can touch base on kind of the general picture of the game. Colin, you mentioned some of your team. You had Micah with the first pick. What do you think of the episode? I know Micah. I've seen a lot of debate of whether he's been invisible and quiet or he's been present and good. And how do you feel about Micah so far? Check in on that.
I feel fine. Yeah, I feel fine about Micah. I wouldn't have hated seeing a little more of him if I'm thinking in terms of eventual winner, but I feel like what we have seen of Micah, virtually, if not literally everything, he looks like he's in there doing exactly what I would expect from him, playing a really solid game. And it seems like the trio in general, by the way, which we haven't really gotten into, I think it came up in passing, they are all, it seems like, killing it at this point. And part of that is swapping together with a good group of people. They really seem like all 3 of them would be people to watch. So Micah, yeah, definitely higher up on my list at this point than happy to have spent the first pick on him, for my first pick on him.
Right. I think it was the first overall pick, right?
It may have been. It might have been, yeah.
You had Micah, you had Shubo, Victoria, Sabrina, and Ashley. So how are you feeling about your team overall?
Hey, killing it. I feel what's not to love about that team. No, I love as we started talking about the pairs. I love having both Jordan and Sabrina on my team. I think that pair is really set up to do a lot of damage if things continue going their way. And yeah, really loving my team so far. Yeah, I don't know what more there is to say about it. I feel like my draft was completely flawless.
Yeah, I mean, you're 5 for 5 right now. So
yeah, I just in sheer entertainment value, by the way. I don't think she's come up yet, but I love Ashley on this season. I think she's been so fun.
We could talk about Ashley. Yeah, she had definitely some fun moments this episode.
Dom, you see a bit of yourself in Ashley, I hear.
I feel like I just am Ashley in most groups that I'm in. I'm just the Ashley Roach, and I'm fine with that. You know, I've grown accustomed to it, but I maybe feel more sympathy for her than a lot of people do.
Do you sit there yelling when people get loud while you're doing your podcast?
That was so Absolutely.
Good. I also really enjoyed the scene of her and Chris Thomas tonight. I thought that was
yeah. Dom, and Hillary, how much do you guys like my team? Isn't it great?
Yeah, no, I actually do think your team's actually great, but I don't want to admit it. I was shocked that yours is still 5 for 5 though. Like I forgot who all the teams are, but like I assumed everyone lost at least one person.
I assume I didn't remember that the entirety of my team, and I would have thought that I had lost someone, but I'm thrilled to still be in there. I think we can confirm this is the final 5 of this season.
We could definitely you have a good track record of confirming the final 5, so I think
yeah, it's been going well for me lately.
Yeah. Dom, you were doing pretty well with 4 of 5 still left. You've got Shannon, Chris LeCompte, a tough one, close one for you tonight. Shannon, Chris LeCompte, Ryan is your only casualty, and then Eric and Chris Thomas. So how are you feeling about the overall state of your team?
I feel like it's pretty high. It's pretty hit or miss because either Chris LeCompte and Eric are going to just steamroll over the opposition and have a pretty good future in the game, or they're going to regroup and someone's going to take a shot at them and both of them are going down in flames. So that could go either way. Colin said earlier, though, he thinks Shannon is in the best spot right now. And it's hard to disagree. Like, it seems like she's crushing it. So very glad to have her like as the headline act, if you like, for my team. And then as the other person, Chris Thomas, entertainment value mostly, but he maybe has a shot, and I got to convince myself when we get to like episode 10 and he's somehow still there that he's going to be the dark horse winner that nobody saw coming.
We really need the group to start post-merge coming around on the idea if Chris Thomas is there and like deep in the game. I think the way he wins is if the jury gets there like on Final Tribal Council and just says to themselves, you know what, why not have Chris Thomas be the winner of this season? Let's go do it.
If Final Tribal is at 2 a.m. and everyone is completely hammered, I can see it just going to Chris just by default. So yeah, actually, I love that.
Hearing Dom, I had 2 random things I wanted to bring up about Chris LeCompte, who is on Dom's team. The first one, you done muffed up, Aaron, was going to be my opening line if he ended up getting voted. That's how I was going to introduce myself for this podcast. And I'm really glad that he is going to stick around and still be in the for at least the next episode, if not longer. But that would have been fantastic if that was the episode title this week. And then the other thing was, I loved as the tiebreaker votes were coming in, just as soon as the third one came in for him, or for Sierra, excuse me, he starts fist pumping, essentially signaling, I don't care if this is Sierra or literally any of you, because I'm definitely still going to be here, and that's all that matters.
We should talk about Chris LeCompte a little bit, because Chris LeCompte has been, I mean, his name has been brought up so many times in every episode, but yeah, we haven't really talked about him at all itself. You know, he was someone we talked a lot about in the preseason. I remember Colin hadn't seen Outback, so he was like, I hear about this Chris LeCompte guy, and that was really the whole story of the preseason roundtable. But now that we're 6 episodes through of Chris LeCompte Part 2, what is our takeaway overall?
I can't believe he's there still. And it seems like he's there crushing it. I would have thought that if everyone is entering the game knowing this is the guy that is totally untrustworthy. Like, will say whatever it takes, is the most known like emotional manipulator, and seems like he'd be pretty good in the physical challenges once they hit like the individual part. I really would have thought that Chris LeCompte would have been like the Tony I think that was the comparison I made. It's like Tony coming into Game Changers. Like, this guy's just screwed as soon as he goes to one tribal council. But it seems like every single, at least early on, that wasn't even a realistic possibility. It seems like he has tons of great connections, and this was the first real time, as far as I was concerned, that it even came close to his head being on the actual chopping block.
Dom, as the person who picked him, what's been your take?
Yeah, I don't know quite how he's still here either, but I love that he is, not just for draft purposes, but as a viewer as well. And if you contrast this with Ghost Island, which it was running concurrently with this for a long time, so much of that season was every week people would say, "Oh, the gloves are off now. We're going to finally take a swing at Dom and Wendell." And it was like, "Okay, sure you are, but we'll believe it when we see it." But with this, like, you actually do believe that they will, and they are. Like, they are putting these plans into motion and trying to follow through on it, and that's what makes it so fun to watch. Even if it kind of fizzled out and we saw Sierra leave instead of the big Chris LeCompte blindside, this episode was still thrilling for me. And same thing last week with Michelle. Like, I think Michelle and Sierra maybe are two of the more low-key players on the season that people aren't as mad to see go. So the fact that they leave, some of the big names are still here, and the episodes are still exciting nonetheless, it's really like the best of all possible worlds.
Right. People were saying, like, even before the season, they were like bracing themselves, like, "Oh man, it sucks that we've already lost 5 of the top players right away." I was like, we haven't even started the season yet. It was even worse when we lost Alex and Siona really quickly, which I get. But I think that we've definitely kept around a lot of the big players, and Chris LeCompte being certainly one of the biggest ones. Hillary,
well,
what's been
Austin,
yeah.
Sorry, what did you think about Chris LeCompte, now that you can be more honest, now that we know he's at least made it this far? Did it surprise you at all that this was the first time, at least as far as we've seen, that he ever came close to being voted out, or did you think he would be a big target going into the season?
I mean, I thought he would be a big target, but I still thought there were so many relationships that it would be hard to get him out early. I wonder a little bit about what would have happened if he hadn't won the immunity in episode 4. But I still think there was definitely people who wanted to kind of keep him around as a shield, and he was connected to people. So I didn't expect it to flip this week as quickly as it did. I was still thinking that he had a little bit of the tribe was set up pretty well for him. But I think I kind of feel a couple different ways. I feel like on the one hand, I think he's doing a really good job of making sure he stays talking to everybody and utilizing those relationships. But I also think he had this sort of block where he was worried a little bit about like keeping friends and keeping relationships, and like he feels bad a little bit about voting and blindsiding Sierra. And then like I think that something that was different in Outback is he just had no reservations about anything because he was on the outs for a lot of the post merge, and so he was ruthless in doing whatever he needed to. And I think it's interesting to see him play from the top from the start right now. And I think this was it has to be at least a wake-up call for him for now. Like, wow, this was really close to happening. I think he thought that he had total control over everybody, even Chris Thomas, even Sabrina and everyone. And that's clearly it's an all-star season and everybody's playing.
I thought he gave a good answer about why he and Eric weren't necessarily such a huge threat, because he learned this lesson from his first season that total loyalty to one person is ultimately not going to work out for him in a lot of timelines. Is that just total revisionist history, or was he truly like legit loyal to Steve Sleesman and he's actually learning a lesson from that? Or is he just trying to sell that to the group?
Well, it was legitimate. He was very loyal to Steve, and that was one of the only things that kind of held him back a little bit in the end of Outback. But I think he is also not as close with Eric as he ever was with Sleesman. They were friends from day one of college. So
how do you let a guy named Sleesman like manipulate you in a game of? Are you kidding me? It's like.
It's a fair point.
It's like when Chris Moneymaker won the World Series of Poker. It just seemed predestined to happen. Like there's no other outcome at that point.
Nominative determinism.
Hillary, I know that you had been a big fan of Chris LeCompte I think in Outback you talked a lot about it, like him.
He was
now you're a Chris Thomas fan. I don't know if there's room for both.
Like I loved Chris LeCompte in his old season because he was so manipulative. I think right now this season he's a lot more emotional, which I'm not a big fan of. Like when he told Shannon that Holly was his partner before even telling Holly that he was like that, or like even though he promised Holly that he wasn't going to tell Shannon, like that move, like kind of like irked me the wrong way. I know that him and Shannon are like really close and everything, but like if I was Holly, I'd be like so mad. And I know when Ryan, I think, was about to get voted off, he like told him in advance, even though everyone wanted to blindside him. So like things like that, when he has an emotional connection with someone, he chooses his friendship over the game, and I'm not a fan of that. I'd rather him be super cutthroat and just cut him off like without telling anyone anything or whatever. And like I think he's playing a good game, but because he's like controlling the game, it's also in the sense I don't want to root for him because he's controlling the game, and I also want to root for the underdogs. I still think he's a good game player, but right now I like Chris Thomas a bit better just because he's the only person going against Chris LeCompte.
It's interesting that he kind of mirrors what you were seeing with Senti, certainly in her first season, and maybe a bit here as well, where she was going through this struggle over whether she could vote out her friends and like how to balance liking people with wanting to vote them out. And you kind of see Chris going through the same thing, but with him, because he is also being so aggressive strategically, it kind of masks that, and it makes it look less emotional than maybe it is.
Yeah, because with Senti, I didn't like her gameplay either, and like I don't know. Her right now, I kind of like. She's okay for me. But yeah, LeCompte with playing with his like having emotions, I don't like players who like try to play good, and yeah.
I was wondering, I mean, is LeCompte going to be somehow the least likely ever person to get like the Don Meehan, Lisa Welshel treatment near the end of the game where people feel like personally betrayed by him and are unwilling, like somehow get it out of their mind that he's just doing it because it's a game?
Any thoughts, Austin? Confirm or deny?
I can't say I've heard the Chris LeCompte Don Meehan comparisons before, but
I think they're there. I think they're very clear, actually.
It's one of your hotter takes, I think.
Yes.
Really
I would love it if this season just became the Senti show again, where every single vote was just whatever side of the bed she woke up on that morning and decided to go with.
That's so mean.
No. So no, I don't mean it as a knock against her, but like that was seriously fun to watch in Outback, and
yeah,
again with an all-star cast who I'm not going to take to that kindly. Probably like that. If that becomes the main storyline, then I'm here for it.
The chat can confirm for me, but I think they were expecting some more Senti hate tonight. So that's praise for Senti in an otherwise.
I love Senti. I'm with these guys. I think she's like I disagree with the move strategically. I think there's virtually no long-term value in the way that she ended up voting her here tonight. But Senti, as a viewer, is fantastic for me. I feel like I love that. Just the willingness to just go with whatever her gut is telling her in the moment. And by the way, loved the timing on whoever it was getting to give the quote about their gut dictating who.
Sabrina, 3 years too early.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a.
Yeah. I'm a Senti. I'm a big Senti fan. I hope she makes it all the way to the end.
We should have had Nicole Lapp back as well. So you had like two Chris's, two Nicoles. That should have been the pair switch. Just any like matching names.
We could have done Katie, Alex's. Yeah, definitely. We had Alex's.
There aren't that many Siennas or Felucca, so that might have been tough. But an idea to keep in mind. One question I had for you, Austin, is so with this episode, there was so much just drama and chaos leading up to that final decision. There's basically no way you can edit that all together in a way that it makes coherent sense. And even if you could, that might not be the best thing for the viewers to have. And sometimes on Survivor, when they've done that, it goes down really well. Like the example that comes to mind is like the Jeff Kent blindside in the Philippines, where that goes down as one of the all-time great episodes. And then on the other side of things, you have things like the Michaela boot in Game Changers, where it felt just so out of the blue, like everything is going wild, and then suddenly the one person whose name hadn't even been mentioned just goes home, and you come away feeling just dissatisfied because you have no idea what led up to that. How do you balance those two concerns and find like this happy medium where you can conceal enough information to keep it suspenseful, but give people enough to thread through there?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had an exact answer. It's like with anything with the editing, it's really entirely a feel thing. But I think that the way you said it, I think that you want to understand the reasons why certain outcomes can happen. I think the more outcomes, the better. But it's hard to justify more than like 3 outcomes happening, maybe 4 if you're really stretching it. Outside of like a rock jaw or something, obviously like anybody can go home then. But I think that you want to have get people to have an understanding of what happened while giving as little information as possible. And that's like I set up the episodes and then I like go back and cut from there. Like, how do I take out stuff from here so that it's the most interesting, the most coherent, and like the most entertaining while also telling the story? If that makes sense at all, it's like kind of just like being minimalistic in terms of what you start with and then what you show. That's still like, if I have 2 things that say the same thing, I'll take one of those out. If it's leading up to the vote and I have 3 confessionals saying this person should go home, maybe take it out to 1 or take it out to nothing and just show a hint to it. So I don't really have a great answer on that, but I think I do try to show the feeling of chaoticness. Chaos would be the word. Chaoticness, Cass.
Chaoticness, yeah. Chaoticness Senti is the
Chaos Senti was something that I regretted not making a thing during Outback.
How is Shubrina not a thing? Where is that hashtag on the episodes? Where is hashtag Shubrina? They get shown together all the time.
I need to just, I've been really like, I used to put a lot of hashtags in back when Survivor was doing a lot of them. Then I kind of pulled back on them because I was like, I just want people to use the Survivor Maryland hashtag. Let's not overcomplicate it, but maybe we'll see some more pop up.
I feel like the hashtags have always, not only on Survivor Maryland, but also frankly on like regular Survivor, are just there almost as like jokes. And I feel like Shubrina would be, no one's gonna like think that that's the intended hashtag for this show. It's just a good hashtag for this particular subject.
Right. Well, I don't know. I used to get with the watcher people and they'd be like, who the heck is tweeting this? Like no one is tweeting hashtag balls to the face, right? Like not a thing.
Hashtag she chokes on everything.
Yeah, well, hashtag Dildogate I did put in there from Terrible Trials. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll do a hashtag Sabrina if I remember. We'll have to see. I no promises, but maybe Easter egg. So let's get back. We got sidetracked from Hillary's team. It's very fitting from Colin.
Who was my team? I don't remember.
Your team was Holly. We haven't talked about Holly tonight either, and I think we definitely should. Well, your team was Holly, Evan, Siona, Alex G, and Sierra. So you lost Sierra tonight, but you still have Holly, Evan, and Alex G. Let's talk about Holly because she was someone that a lot of people had pretty high on their winner rankings. I saw all the time before this episode, and the plan only almost worked because Holly ended up putting her vote onto Eric and was very involved in this episode in terms of the decisions about wanting to target Eric early on and wanting to work with Chris Thomas also, as well as LeCompte. So what was your take, starting with you, Hillary, on Holly and how she's been playing so far?
I love Holly. I'm so glad she's on my draft. I think I want to say she's on in the best position on her team, but there was someone on her team that or on her tribe that noticed that she was in a good position. So that kind of scares me a little bit for her. But I think has a really good grasp of it, and I'm really happy with how she's playing. Her and I think Evan, I'm really stoked that they're both on my draft still.
Dom or Colin?
I'm waiting. I'm seeing how long I can stay silent and see if Dom will ever go.
Fine. Okay. You get your way for now. I like Holly. I was a bit cool on her coming out of her season. It wasn't clear because it seemed like she was playing a good game and people liked her, but it didn't come across on screen what it was about her that drew so many people in. But seeing it in action again this season, you can't deny that she has this way with people that people are just flocking to her. And it did worry me this episode. You saw that acknowledged explicitly for the first time, and people saying, even if we're not going after Holly, we need to cut down some of Holly's numbers. So that's a concern for sure. But this cast is smart enough that people are going to notice those things. And even the other people who seem to be in a good spot, like the trio members or Shubo or maybe Felucca even going ahead, all of those people are on people's radar. You can't escape that this time around. So far, at least, yeah, Holly seems to be crushing it. And I don't know if coming out of this week, we saw this blow up in the preview, maybe. But so far, yeah, there's really no complaints to have.
Yeah, I'm with that for sure. I've been loving Holly on this season and was a big fan of her in her original season as well. And it does seem like she's doing a great job, to the point, like we saw tonight, that everyone's saying, whoa, Holly's got almost complete control of this tribe if we don't do something about it immediately. And that thing that they decided to do wasn't even going after Holly herself. And I don't think that would be I think that will continue to be the case next week going forward. I would feel at this point really comfortable almost penciling Holly in for the merge, barring some kind of craziness going down at that 3 a.m. blow up, which I guess anything is possible, especially when they're all drunk. And again, we really can't wait to see how all of that goes down. And I wish that had been in this episode, but it'll be like the on Big Brother, when you get to see finally the behind the scenes of what really went down at the double eviction. I'm really looking forward to that, and really looking forward to seeing all that Holly, I suspect, will be bringing to the remainder of this season. I think she's in there with a really good chance. If I'm looking at like long-term contenders, I would probably be saying the trio, Sabrina and Holly would be the six for me. And I know Curtis again posts his winner at rankings through the end of every episode, and I think those are the big six for him as well.
So we can just do a thumbs up, thumbs down, or Holly for the last 2 episodes was talking about this need to target Eric, or at least break up the pair of Eric and Shannon, and Eric was the one she wasn't really close with. So are we thumbs up on her idea to actually, to go ahead and try to do that move tonight, even though it wasn't actually what the move was? Or are we down on her for getting played and getting herself to throw the vote?
I think it goes back to the idea of sorry for not giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but the half measure again of essentially announcing that she was voting opposite how she wanted to, I thought was interesting. And I was surprised that LeCompte didn't kind of jump all over that.
Well, he was pretty sketched. It was very weird how, they didn't talk at all before Tribal. And I guess it kind of went back to last week when they were like, well, if you're going to vote out Eric, keep me in the dark, which I don't think he actually wanted after that. But she, this all happened like at the bar right beforehand and the last couple hours before. And so she's saying this and he's just like feeling really sketched out, sitting there at the table at the bottom. And I don't know why they didn't work it out either, but it was an interesting way that they played off of each other and really didn't actually work together for this vote, even though they are partners.
I guess my question would be, and again, in lieu of giving a thumbs up or thumbs down, where did she think Senti's vote was going? Because
she thought they all were voting for Eric. That's what they all convinced her to get her to vote, to throw her vote.
So she thought it was 4 votes on Eric, and if she doesn't vote with them, at best she's forcing a tie. They draw rocks, and then things get messy from there, maybe?
Right.
Okay, in that case, I can see it, and I kind of like it. Because I guess the question is, who are you pissing off, whichever side you go with? And this way, you avoid any weird scenario where like you or someone you want to stay around picks the rock. And yeah, it is an awkward spot for her because she's someone who I think doesn't want to make big moves unless she necessarily has to. She wants to be that social player behind the scenes who's kind of moving the pieces around and not making this big dramatic play. So the fact that she finds herself forced into that is kind of unsettling, but I think she handled it about as well as you could ask for, really.
Okay.
Especially at 2 a.m. on a Saturday night.
Right. We have to give everyone a benefit of the doubt with that. So, Hillary, you had Holly, Evan, and Alex G still left. How are you feeling about Alex G?
He's so whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, I was happy to have him on my team, like, initially, but right now, like, I think because he doesn't really have a storyline for me, at least, like, that's not interesting enough for me to keep up with. I'm pretty indifferent. Like, I'm hoping he'll have, like, a lot more alliances and a lot more, like, manipulative, like, things going down. But, like, right now, I'm just set. Like, I'm happy that I have Evan and Holly, like, trailblazing on my team, and then Alex G is there right now. But I have high hopes that maybe something cool will happen with him. But at the moment, he's been pretty, like, low-key, and I'm kind of whatever with it right now.
It seems like as long as he doesn't make a big presence out of himself pre-merge, I don't see why the trio or Shubo would want him gone anytime soon when Felucca and Victoria are also still there.
Yeah, but I think, like, right now, because he's done, like, kind of nothing, and I think his biggest go-to ally is what Shubo, and Shubo is basically playing him, and, like, the fact that he's pretty oblivious to the fact that Shubo's with Soka Trio, I don't see him getting like I can see him going far, but I don't see him like actually winning. So yeah.
No, I'm totally with that. I don't think I will call my shot. I do not see an Alex G win coming through here.
Is this the first Alex G mention in what, an hour and a half now?
Yes.
It's the Alex G show. Is there something to that, like LEG?
Yes. Okay, we can work with that. There's some good material there.
Yeah, I think that's the starting point for the eventual Alex G centric episode. Yeah, no, I think he's going to be in there, probably in a fine enough shape, like relatively safe through at least the early part of the merge. But I, at this point, have a hard time seeing him being like one of the end game power players.
Yeah.
So we'll just touch base. You know, Adam's not here. We'll just probably should pour one out for him. Who Adam's had a rough go so far. He had Alex Pascal with his first pick. That didn't turn out super well. He had, well, we'll leave that person for a bit, but then he had Rebecca, Michelle, and Brandon. So the last two episodes hit him pretty hard.
Strong.
And his hopes are resting on Nicole Senti.
There we go.
So the fate of Adam's team rests on Nicole Senti. Are we concerned?
Not even slightly. Nicole Senti is going to be in there at Final Tribal Council. The question for me is unanimous, or will someone give the runner-up a pity vote at her eventual? All right, all right. At her eventual dominant victory on stage.
Going for that, but it feels poetic for someone's entire hopes in a game to come down to Nicole Senti. That's how it should be, right?
Yeah. When will Adam catch a break as things pertain to Survivor?
Really rough go for this guy.
I don't know. Nicole Senti, I could see her potentially winning. I think she's a lot more self-aware than she was in her previous season, and I think she has that going for her as long as she knows how to like eloquently like speak at like the Final Tribal Council or whatever. Or I could see her doing okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to be optimistic for Adam, but yeah.
I think she's still in there for a while. At least I very much hope so. Maybe just my desires are blinding my projections here, but I'm definitely not ready to be done with Nicole Senti on this season.
All right. So we touched on the teams. We've been going for a while. So I have a couple more, rapid questions that I usually do, and then I'll take some questions from the chat, and then we will wrap up for tonight. Sounds like the Warriors are winning now, so I don't really know. Did the Caps?
The Caps are about to lose. They are down 5-4 with 30 seconds left. So anything could happen.
That's right. I'm not counting on. So maybe Nicole Senti will flip for the Caps at the last. She'll tie it up. So with 6 episodes through, we've talked a lot about people that you guys think are contenders or not. We'll get to winners in a second. The first thing is, who has impressed you most? Who have you been most surprised by positively this season so far? Hillary,
Sabrina. I was waiting for calling you first, but yeah, Sabrina for sure. Like, I think she is a lot smarter than what I gave her credit for. And I'm just really impressed with how she's doing it. Like, she has so many alliances. Like, I don't think she's really on anyone's radar at the moment. And I don't know. She just really she's really impressing me at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Sabrina too. If you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said Michelle, but that's not really on the table anymore. I guess the other answer I might give would be Holly. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised by it. Maybe it was in plain sight all along, but seeing her do it in 2 seasons, just have this good connection with everyone in the cast and seem to have a pretty good handle on the game, like that kind of consistency is impressing me. So I would say Holly too.
Yeah, I was going to say Sabrina, and then my backup was going to be Holly. So I will go to my next backup, which I know there were a lot of expectations for this person entering the season, a lot of hype. But as I brought up earlier, I'm still really impressed that Chris LeCompte is still in the game. It seems, I know this wasn't his finest week as far as dominating his tribe, but it really does seem like going forward, I would suspect they're going to be a little more reluctant now to pull the trigger on him this next vote. And so I've been frankly really impressed with LeCompte still just being in there with a fighting chance. And then the other person that I just didn't know anything at all about that I've been really, really enjoying watching this season has been Shubo as well. I think he is one of, if not the number one person to just keep your eye on over the course of any given episode. And as we start getting closer and closer to the merge, it seems like he's really in there, much like Chris Thomas, I suppose, just dying to stir shit up. So I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Next question. This one can be quick too, because I know we've talked to a lot of them. Maybe it's the same people, but who are you most rooting for going forward?
You're talking first, Colin. Don't look at me like that.
I was waiting.
I should have anticipated this question, but I really this is the thing, and this is what you deserve so much credit for, I think, Austin, is there are truly so many different timelines that I would be totally in love with seeing play out. Like so many permutations of various big characters and even, you know, characters that have been smaller to this point that I think would make for a really, really compelling end game. I don't think I could give any honest answer for the number one person I hope is like in every episode without saying Felucca at this point, just because she just brings it in every single time she's on the screen. But I would say the people that I really think have been doing great work so far and appear to be in good shape that I'm really most rooting for and feel like would most deserve it, as based on what we've seen so far, to be in the end game, would probably be those same three that we just mentioned as the people surprising us the most. I think Shubo, Sabrina, and Holly are the ones that they've been more the focus, but I think every time we've seen them for basically across the board, they've all been looking really, really strong. And then the other person that I would probably throw in there would be Shannon, who I feel like has been playing really well to this point as well. But I am totally open to changing my mind on many of those answers and being really excited for whoever ends up making it there, I'm sure. All right. Sorry for not giving a short answer at all.
I mean, for my part, I like pretty much everybody left, and the only people that I wouldn't list, it's not like I dislike them necessarily, it's just I don't really have strong views. So, you know, Alex G, I'm not hoping to see Alex G like go in some blaze of glory and take the crown, but I don't dislike Alex G. And I think that's a testament to how strong the cast is, that I can list off 8 or 9 different people, all of whom I really like and want to see do well. And it's almost like I can't make a choice for you because there are so many good candidates that it's hard to narrow them down. So that's a really great spot to be in. And as Colin said, like, let's say the trio goes on and ships a season, I would be fine with that. Also, if the trio goes down in flames and Chris LeCompte pulls out some amazing miracle win, that would be fine too. Or Shannon, or obviously Felucca winning would be one of the craziest things I can imagine, but I would love it. Like Sabrina, I think is a good dark horse. There's so many people I could list, and it's going to feel non-committal, and that's because it is. And the fact that I don't have to commit to any one of those outcomes is really encouraging.
But gun to your head. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, it truly feels like, and I'm sorry for jumping in. I want to hear Hillary's answer as well, but to tag on to what Dom said, it truly feels like watching a season of The Genius where at a certain point, and it's like episode 4 or 5, I start feeling to myself like, I don't want to lose any of these people. I'm like upset anytime anyone leaves, even once we're down to like 9 people.
Well, and the thing that I hope people take from it too is, I mean, a lot of times in Survivor, we get so married to the idea of that we have to, the whole episode is defined by the boot. And I mean, I think that's usually the biggest part of it. But, you know, I think for me, pretty much every episode from here through the rest of the season is pretty exciting. And there will be boots that are like great. There will be boots that are sad. And I mean, at a certain point, you also, like you guys said, might want to not lose anybody. But,
yeah,
you know, I think that the fun thing about going through this whole semester of All Stars for me was that every episode was just so like fun being there and just so exciting to see the story play out. And for me, that's part of enjoying Survivor, is more about watching how it all unfolds. Even this episode, you might have been absolutely hoping for Chris LeCompte to get upended, but I mean, even watching that plan play out, even if it went to crap in the end, doesn't make it not fun.
Right. Well, I mean, I just mean compared to the most recent season that we just wrapped up, Ghost Island, there was a long stretch where it seemed like we were what? Oh, no. I just mean the way the characters, it's not like a situation where there are like 2 or 3 or maybe 4 much bigger characters that we're really invested in. And then we know along the way there's going to be some string of pretty uninteresting boots. That's definitely never going to be in play for Survivor Maryland.
Hillary.
What was the question? It was like, who are you rooting for?
Who are you rooting for? You can throw in winners there too. It can be all encompassing. This is my last real question. So, Chad, if you want to start posting questions, feel free.
I think Soka Trio for sure. Like, I just think Soka Trio playing like a flawless game right now, and it'd just be nice to see one of them win. Just because none of them won their season or whatever. And then I like Sabrina just because she's really changed my opinion of her. And Chris Thomas, I don't want him to win. I'm rooting for him just to get out Chris LeCompte. I feel like that is his one goal of this entire season, and I would love to see him actually accomplish it, just because it'd be so sad if he didn't. And other than that, though, those are probably like my main 5 that I've been rooting for this entire season. It's been pretty consistent for me at least, but every now and then, depending on the episode, I do like one person more than the other. But for now, Soka Trio, Chris Thomas, and Sabrina.
Okay. All right, fun picks all around. I meant to ask this, and I'm glad 2 people in the chat did. Someone said, or Nate Stauffer said, screw winner picks. There's so much game left to play, which I think is totally fair, especially so much content in Survivor Maryland that you could go so many directions. But so Nate and Timothy both asked for next week booth predictions. Next week. For either tribe, who would you guys say is the person, gun to your head, the one person who would be eliminated if either tribe went to tribal?
Victoria, for my choice. I don't know. Like, she's been pretty lackluster for me right now, and I haven't really seen her play that much game. And with the the addition of Felucca on her team, I don't know if she'll be able to handle actually playing the game with her there. So if her tribe loses, I think it's going to be Victoria.
Yeah. As much as I hate to say it, I see maybe a Game Changers Aubrey thing going on with Victoria, where like she doesn't have any room to play and she doesn't get to play, and therefore she just doesn't get shown because like she's not really able to do anything out there. I think Victoria's a likely boot. On the other team, I don't really know how things are going to shake out over there. That's the one situation that I can't really handle at the moment. If I had to pick a name, maybe a good dark horse then would actually be Holly. Like whatever. I'm not going to choose anything. I'm going to let Colin take the floor. Then
if I had to pick a name, I wouldn't. I think Holly. I'm standing by Holly being in good shape there, and essentially her probably being the deciding vote, at least if things are roughly as they looked entering this round, because I would guess that LeCompte, King, and probably still Ashley will not be voting against any, their votes are all going to probably be in line. And if Holly wants to go with that, I think she has to imagine that's going to be a group that she would be fine with working with going forward, and that you could get through the remaining pre-merge rounds with safely. So I would, unfortunately, I might make my dark horse pick of Senti. As much as I hate it, I feel like Senti might be in trouble there after the shenanigans last round, or Chris Thomas. Would be another unfortunate call for me. That would be the tribe that I think I said earlier that I would rather see them lose the next few challenges to protect the people on the opposite side and let all of them make it to the merge. But now that I'm thinking through it, I may go the opposite direction and say, let the trio pick off. I guess like my perfect scenario would be Alex G. No disrespect to Alex G, but unfortunately, I do feel like Victoria is probably over the rest of the season going to be in a position where she's not going to be able to find much room to play. So if that tribe does go back, I both think and almost hope that it would be Victoria at this point, not because I dislike Victoria, but because I do just feel like she's going to be so handcuffed for the rest of the game compared to most other people.
Yeah, I agree. I think for this tribe, though, I think it might be Ashley. That would be my guess. Just because it's like, I think Chris, LeCompte, and Eric have such like a strong hold of their team right now that I think they might just want to pick someone as an easy boot, and I think Ashley might be the one.
Okay. So we got to those questions. I just lost my point in the chat. Thumbs up or down? A real thumbs up or down on this one. Does Ashley have finale upside from Curtis Morrison. She seems to keep evading the target.
Sorry, I put my thumb up off camera. I went way too high up.
I'll just say it. Colin is thumbs up. Hillary's thumbs down. Dom with the deciding thumbs up.
He should have done the Caesar kind of
like. Dom, why would you say yes?
I say yes because she seems like the perfect person to take to the end as a guaranteed win. And I think a lot of people are going to earmark her as that pretty early. And then also, she has this hilarious thing going on where every single episode, she rubs so many people the wrong way that she should be the target and seems like she will be the target. And yet every single time, she just skates on by. So I don't see any reason why that's going to change anytime soon. So yeah, why not?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with that. It seems like who's coming after Ashley, other than I think Hillary does present a compelling scenario where I think it would be like if specifically Holly wants to change her mind about the group she wants to roll with to the merge, that Ashley probably would be the person instead of LeCompte or King who comes off the board there. But if Ashley makes it to the merge, I'm definitely buying futures in Ashley, not as necessarily the winner, but in staying around for a long time.
I meant to ask this because I don't know if it was in the chat or not, but favorite single moment from the episode that you can remember. Do you guys have one that stands out?
It also involves Ashley, which may be why this came up, which is her getting yelled at as she was doing that was so funny. The guys then coming back even louder and her like complaining was perfect, Austin.
I enjoyed drunk Sabrina going off on Austin at Tribal. That was a personal highlight for me.
Does it have to be in this episode? Or it can be in any episodes.
You can say in any episode. I don't care.
I think when they had the fight in like the bubble tea shop and like it was super awkward. That was like by far my favorite. Like I love that petty gossip drama.
Classic girls try bathroom drama and bubble tea drama.
Yeah.
It also struck me that I don't think we've said Evan's name in almost 2 hours now. So I'll highlight the scene with him and Felucca for this episode where he just like showed off that mole, which was one of the most bizarre things I've seen on an episode of Survivor, but somehow it felt so perfect for that situation.
I was really upset we didn't have Adam on to talk about the mole Lake Tahoe versus Evan. Missed opportunity. Alan JD for Life says, Austin, update on Ashley's mom and aunt if possible. I actually don't know a ton about that, and I think they're okay. So that's as far as I know. I don't want to speak out of turn on that, but I think it was okay. Ashley, I think didn't even remember saying that. She was like also very drunk at that tribe was, were most of them. And I know she was dealing with a lot back then too. And, I don't know for sure, so I shouldn't even answer. But I think everyone's okay. Is it too early to start calling Ashley GOAT? We just talked about Ashley in the finale, so it's final 14. We got a long way to go.
Is it too early to start talking about her as the GOAT, as in the greatest of all time?
I don't know. Is it too early?
I don't think so. I think that's at least one timeline is in play where that becomes reality.
Corey says, why the hell in all caps was there no Redemption Island sequel twist this season? Seems like the perfect season to have one. I did have a Secret Redemption Island season 1 for the pre-merge, which was really cool merge twist to kind of liven up the game. Part of the answer, I actually did think about it. Part of the answer is that when I did the Felucca twist, I felt like that was kind of like the one like player coming back twist that I felt like it'd be cheap to do both of those. And 2, it was a lot of time to run and to keep secret, and I did not have that in me.
How did you keep it secret from the people still in the game? That seems impossible.
We would do like 1 a.m. redemption duels with people, and somehow they all kept their.
They're like playing Mario Kart 64 back in season.
They were pretty like, I think the duels were there was a card stacking one, there was a bowling one. I had them go to the bowling alley and bowl off. Some dominoes, of course. There was it was like the most random assortment of things. There was like a picking up pennies in the pool. You had to dive down. But I had to redo it because it was, I don't know, it was all great.
The bocce ball tiebreaker is hysterical and it sounds so funny. That's so great.
Austin, it sounds like a lot of work to put in to enable what might be the least popular Survivor twist of all time. I'm not sure this is really.
I think if you keep it pre-merge and you do it secretly, it worked for what it accomplished. And it was season 1. I needed something to like kind of liven everybody back up. So they came to the merge, and then I had this video of like all the I actually have the video. If anybody wants to see it, then message the Survivor Maryland page after this. But I think somewhere the video still exists of like me explaining the twist and who went out, and then I brought the players in. They did a duel to get back in the game in front of everybody to merge. So it just kind of like kickstarted it. So I understand what you're saying, Dom, but I think it accomplished its purpose.
I will say on the subject of twist, because this has been a big point of debate with Ghost Island recently, I think Survivor Maryland over the past 6 episodes has shown that you can make incredibly exciting and compelling TV without needing 5 different idols in play and 10 different advantages and not having to spend time or arguably waste time in the episodes having to explain all of that. Like you can just put people out there who are interesting and smart and capable players, let them do their thing, and maybe you have a twist like the pair twist, which I think is working out fantastically so far. That's exactly the kind of thing you want in there. It's fair. It doesn't break the game. It's not advantage in favor of one player. It doesn't feel random, and yet it's adding this new element for people to work around. That's exactly the kind of thing that you want. Whereas I think what we're seeing in modern day, like televised Survivor, is just this focus on twists at the expense of the game instead of integrating them into the game in a more cohesive way.
Yeah, to me, the problem is when you feel
Is he broken?
I think so.
Okay.
I can hear random.
Yeah.
It's, not a crutch to say that this is the only thing that can actually flip a game. And I mean, I agree. It comes down to
yeah. I'm sure what you just said was amazing, but we didn't hear it. So could you go through it again for the benefit of the audience?
I was going to say the whole point of what the twist in the All-Star season was giving players options to, with the partner twist and even Felucca coming back. It's just about creating variants and things to choose from strategically. And I think that the issue with idols and advantages is that they can be great tools to shake up the game, but they've been becoming, I think, a crutch where you have the idea that that's the only way to shake up a game, and that people start relying on that to like, I think people, I don't know if this is true, but I feel like there might be less attempts to actually flip numbers and change up dynamics. This could be totally wrong if people are on the beach forever, but I just think that people think, okay, well, I have to go find an idol to shake things up. And that's why I didn't really make them a big focus of this season, is because you want them to be in there, but not overpowering.
So who finds them and how do they get played? All right. Actually, here's a good thing from the comments that I think would be good if you still have it. I thought someone just put out a request for like a sizzle reel of just Shubo's moments from season 1, so we can get some background on him. Is that potentially in the cards?
If I had more time, sure, but
how hard is that? Austin, you have infinite free time.
Yeah, totally.
No, but I mean, just like 2 minutes of him doing stuff.
I mean, there's some stuff in those. Their episodes are short, whatever. There's a little bit of him planning his like fake idol, whatever. But the issue is a lot of the footage is corrupted anyway, so it's like hard for me to even pull things that would be there.
Go reshoot it. Go back to the Maryland campus. Find it again. Quit your job.
Sounds good. I'll have that to you guys in a week or two.
Yeah.
Jono Driscoll says, Jono, sorry. Who do you think are the biggest goats in the game that I'm talking about goats? Do you think there are any goats at this point or not yet?
I think Ashley is the obvious name. I don't know about Chris Thomas, because I could see him getting to the end and people just being so pissed off at him that he's never getting a vote. But also I could see him actually being kind of endearing if he somehow gets there. And then you have like Felucca. I think people's hearts would be broken if she made it to the finals again and lost. But if we get the same kind of incredibly like emotional and fraught end game that we had last time, then maybe that's in play. I think it's too early to say, aside from the people like Ashley who just stand out as not really fitting in with the group.
I would say the person that I would think that I'm trying to figure out how to frame this correctly, because I don't frankly even know how often I see this person getting to the end. I would be surprised if Eric King was playing a game at this point that was going to receive a lot of jury votes based on what we've seen so far. I would feel like if he made it to the end, he would probably not be in a great spot there based on what we've seen to this point.
Yeah, I don't think he... Yeah, sorry, Harry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like that's a good point because I didn't even think much of Eric King because he's kind of like LeCompte's like a right hand man.
Right.
But with that, like with him being that, like he's only gonna be known as like his buddy. Like I didn't even think of that. I thought Ashley was like the pretty obvious choice there as well. But yeah, that was a good point. And then I think also Alex G, like he's just there to me. But yeah.
Yeah, Alex G is easy to forget about, but he's a good name too. I think the issue with Eric is either he's going to be like the Jervis to Chris LeCompte's Tyson, or if he tries to play that kind of game himself, I don't think he has the social grace to handle that effectively. So I can see him rubbing people the wrong way, and that's assuming that he even makes it there. I could see him like taking a few votes for granted or not anticipating someone flipping on him and that being his ultimate downfall. So I think he's headed for some kind of downfall in the game. It's just a question of how and when.
Mm-hmm. Especially because like even when it comes to confessionals, I don't see him having like a memorable confessional or anything. Like I don't see him being well spoken enough to even like sway the jury to do like give him any votes. Whereas at least for Ashley, she's so fiery, and I feel like if she has that passion, she could do something potentially.
Oh, I want to see her at Final Tribal because she will just light people up. Like both the jurors and the people that she's sitting there next to. Maybe even Austin as well. Who knows?
Let's start running through a few of these. Dylan Oliver, since we're on the subject of Eric a bit before, do you think Holly has to make a move against Eric now that her hand was shown?
Is her hand really shown? Like she was shown voting for Eric the first time, but still bailing out LeCompte. And if I want to go back to my previous read on Eric, like while I wouldn't be thrilled about that situation in Holly's shoes, if there's frankly anyone in the game that I'm not too concerned about in the current situation, it would be Eric, just because it seems like she and LeCompte have something that neither of them wants to break anytime soon. And I think Eric just kind of comes along with that.
Mm-hmm, I agree with that.
Greg from the Great Survivor Time and Change from Ohio State College Survivor says, question, which players believe the dress is black, blue, and which ones believe it's gold and white? I don't know. And following up, Jono said, which players hear Yanni and which hear Laurel? That was not around 3 years ago, so I'm going to say neither of them heard either. Sorry to not give those. I
really hope those jokes are not around in 3 years either. They are so overplayed at this point, even within a week of their lifespan. So hopefully we can put all of that to rest.
I only asked those to be nice and give Greg a shout out. So there you go. But I will say it is still funny to me when I drive by signs that say Laurel.
Is he broken again?
Yeah.
Austin's trying to imitate that robot voice. That says,
here. So that's me. Exandria, that's my answer for you. Exandria. Colin has not seen Outback and is really confused. Am I frozen again?
No, you're back now, but you were.
Oh, where did I cut off?
No, you just were talking. You came back in talking about how I haven't seen Outback and I'm confused. But you cut off talking about funny signs that say Laurel that are going to be funny for about 2 more weeks, and then
Laurel, Maryland, very funny. CT Williams said, "Why didn't you bring back Zandria?" And I said, after a few years, the eggs get rotten, and that was an egg Zandria joke. But you don't get that because you haven't seen Outback.
That was egregious, Austin. We really don't need any of that.
I thought it was excellent. All right, Maka says, real question, when will the rest of y'all join Austin and us in the Discord? Yeah, I'll give a shout out to the Reddit. It's like an offshoot of the Survivor Reddit. It's a thing called Discord. And I actually put the link in the info section of episode 6. So there's actually a specific Survivor Maryland forum thread there where it's like a live chat, which I really like because there's not a lot of good places outside of like this live chat to actually talk with people live and in person. So definitely go make an account and join that and join us there if you are interested. Can we expect Easter Exandria references? Wow, really the great night for Exandria. I think she actually got referenced tonight, which I don't even remember where, but somebody texted me about that. Oh, Ashley's here. Hi, Ashley. How much dabbing is in the seasons filmed in 2017? I definitely remember that being a thing. So I'm trying to find if there are any other good questions.
God.
I don't really think that there are. Yeah, God, dabbing. We're talking about. And Survivor Maryland is going to be a good capture of the zeitgeist of the time. I feel like I have some secret scenes of people discussing the election because this is 2015, and like a couple references to like, oh man, this Trump guy. But,
yeah, and then Austin's in the background, like, I love him. We should all vote for him.
His last name sounds like mine. All right, I think we're good on questions. We've been going for about 2 hours, so I think this is a good time to wrap it up. I will say just another thank you to everybody who has been here tonight in the chat and followed along with us and tweeted tonight. I've seen a ton of tweets tonight, so that's awesome. When we did the preseason roundtable, I think we had like 30 to 35 people in the chat the whole time, and we had close to 100 for most of tonight. So it's just really, really nice testament to how much this is growing and how much people have spread the word. And look, these were back-to-back really exciting episodes. I think each one has probably gotten better as the season's gone, and it's going to stay really fun. So I'm excited to keep talking with you guys. I'll have episode 7 next Monday. I will, for everybody who's here, I will say that I may take a week off in 2 weeks because I know possible. I have a wedding and a couple things, so it's going to be kind of tough. But if I'm going to do that, then I will have a double, like 2 episodes back to back in the next week to make up for it. So
you'll do that before you leave, and then you'll take the week off, and that's going to be the plan, is what I heard.
No.
I think that's what I heard.
I don't think that's what I said. So that is possible on the horizon. I do need a little bit of a catch-up time. It's been pretty crazy, but we'll see about that. Next week will be a lot of fun as well, and we'll see who ends up coming on the recap next week. I have people. If you are interested in coming on, definitely still message me. Like I said last week, all kinds of people with different backgrounds. I'm happy to take anyone on instead of our usual diversity pool. But I got a lot of people reaching out to me last week, and I'm excited to hopefully work some of them in the future. Do you guys have any last thoughts that you want to say before we wrap up tonight?
Shout out to Dylan Oliver in the chat for the reminder that Arrested Development Season 5 drops tonight in a couple hours, so that's going to be exciting.
How do we feel about that, though, with that interview? That was really weird.
Very weird, but it's like Felucca coming back. I don't care what the context is. I just need more Arrested Development.
Yeah, I feel like I need to rewatch before I go back into that.
You need to know the season 4 recut is so good. Everyone must watch. The people who didn't love season 4 in its original form, which I was a big defender of, but the recut version is so much better than even the original version. And I would highly recommend. Obviously, rewatching Arrested Development is like the most rewatchable comedy in the history of comedies. You'll pick up on new stuff every time, which is not what we're here to talk about. But definitely do watch that show.
Are you saying a rewatch, or they actually recut it?
Mitch Hurwitz recut into 22-minute episodes that feature not just one person focused on in each episode. He recuts it into like an OG kind of Arrested Development season. And it's fucking fantastic. Sorry for swearing. Go ahead.
We made it 2 hours before the censors had to
let's be fair. I've gotten people that are like, why don't you censor the episodes? So we're totally fine in 2 hours of the recap to
It's on Netflix. Jordan Shubo in the chat, whoever that is. The recut is on Netflix. Yeah.
This Shubo guy just can't get away from him. All right. Well, Dom and Hillary, any thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, well, Austin, since you didn't thank us for coming on, I'm going to thank Hillary and Colin for being here and giving us their time.
That was what I was about to do.
Okay, if you say so. You say you're going to do it, and then 18 months later, you finally thank us for coming on.
No, I would have said I wasn't doing it, and then 18 months later, I would have thanked you. That's how it works.
Sure. But no, thank you for having me. It's always great fun to talk about this. And I mean, the season has been fantastic so far, truly an all-star season. And I'm confident and hopeful that it's going to continue in that vein.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for having me on. It's always really fun because it's like I'm not really into Survivor except for this type of Survivor, and I actually do think it's better than the CBS version. I don't care what the haters say. Other than that, though, yeah, I don't watch Arrested Development either. So that's basically wraps it up for me.
Well, now that's what you're doing tonight after we hang this up.
Yeah, you got to trust. Look, Colin Stone and Dom show recommendations are high praise these days. So far, the Genius, Survivor Maryland, and I don't whatever else. But no, seriously though, thank you guys again for coming on. Always a pleasure, and thank you especially to Colin and Dom for you guys and your support. This is not a shot at Hillary, but call people with a vocal platform. Thank you.
Oh, good man. I mainly watch Big Brother. You know that. Whenever you guys say GOAT, I always think of greatest of all time. But I know you guys mean like the opposite. Because I'm like, I don't understand the Survivor lingo. I watched like 2 seasons.
But on Big Brother, do they just call it like the Raven because it's a different animal, but also a goat? Like, do we?
Oh my God, I hate her.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't know what they say for that. Maybe Victoria. I think they would say Victoria.
The Victoria. Oh, Victoria from I got it. Yeah, Victoria. I know the true Victoria you're talking about. Yeah. Well, thank you guys again though for your publicity and promotion of it. And like I said, been a really fun culmination of that. It's a really fun season, and it's especially fun that I have people to chat about it with and see people talk about it. So thanks to everyone in the chat. I'll shout out. I saw Survivor Boston chiming in there. You guys can check that out if you want some more college Survivor content they're releasing right now. I already shouted out to Time and Change, so you got another one there, Greg. What?
Which of the colleges in Boston is this? They're like 25, right? So
No,
you've got to narrow it down a bit.
Emerson, but there's also one at Northeastern that's also called Survivor Boston, but they haven't released yet. It's tough. It's confusing.
Okay.
But and Jacob, we'll have you on again. But and Charlie too. But Greg was on as well, so I'm trying to spread the love. But
yeah, cool. Calm down, Jacob and Charlie. Come on.
No, I love Jacob.
So yeah, me too.
Do you?
Totally, with all my heart.
All right. I do have to work tomorrow, so I'm gonna wrap it up. And thank you everyone again, and we'll see you next week. So, peace.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.